Hey, howdy, hi, hello, hola, privyet, bonjour, guten tag. What is up, Vikings? So, Sunday I did the live Jotunheim gear test. That is the new gear that is going to be available starting this Jotunheim. This is the test video. Check out in the description of this video, not only for the links, one goes to the merchandise, memberships, and more shop, and another goes to the GoFundMe to help bringing you this kind of content. Also, in the description are chapters, so you can skip directly to the breakdown of how much better the Jotunheim gear is than Asgard gear. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so the Jotunheim gear. This gear consistently proved to be better than Asgard gear in almost every sense of the way. These charts will also be available on a short and in the community that I will be putting out today. Jotunheim gear consistently T8 versus T1 proved to be 29.5% better. T9 versus T1 gave a 32.7% higher ratio, and that is without T9s being maxed or VIP 100. T2 Jotunheim gear again gave a 32.4% with T8 and a 43.2% higher return with T9. Moving on to T3 and T4. T3, T4 with T8. On T3, it gave a 33.1% higher return, and with T9, it gave a 36.5%. At T4 is where we start to see a little bit of a decline. T4 versus T8, or T8 versus T4, we saw an 18.4% higher return with the Jotunn armor, or Jotunn gear. T9 versus T4, we saw a 22.6% higher ratio. T5 and T6, we didn't see as high of a return as what we'd see in the other tiers. That was due to there being more troop saturation in the town. However, we still saw a fairly significant increase, or an increase in general, with the T8 versus T5 and the T9 versus T5. T8 versus T5 gave a 2.9% interest return. T9 versus T5 gave a 7.3 return. T8 versus T6, this is where the saturation really hit. As you can see, the T8 versus T6, the Jotunn gear and the Asgard gear, there's not much of a difference. And in fact, the Asgard gear with T9 actually against T6 had less of results, less of a return versus the T6. But then with the Jotunn armor, that flips right back around, and the T8 versus T6 gives a 2.5% higher ratio, and the T9 versus T6 gave a 6.2%. T8 versus T7, we see a 21.6% higher ratio killed with the Jotunn armor, and the T9 versus T7, we see a 25.9% higher ratio with the Jotunn armor. Of course, the Jotunn armor has T9 stats on it. When it comes to the breakdown of this, obviously the Jotunheim gear is significantly better across all tiers. It gives anywhere from a 2 all the way to a 46% higher ratio killed on the T1 through T7. Here you can see the breakdown exactly of what it was with the T8 and T9. Obviously, the T9 and the blue give a way higher percentage. Not only are their base stats higher, but also the Jotunn gear buffs T9 specifically. So consistently killing more with the Jotunn armor during an attack. Amber and I will be doing a in-depth test of this gear, but as it looks right now, consistently higher, the Jotunn armor is providing way more kills and stats across the board. Even not even using T9, it is still performing consistently higher than Asgard gear during an attack. I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I hope it helps. I will be posting these charts on a short today as well for reference, as well as they will be available in the proxy community. If you guys can, again, I would greatly appreciate it if you check out the links in the description. Drop in the comments of this video what you guys think of the new Jotunn gear and how much better it is during an attack than the Asgard gear. I hope you guys have an amazingly awesome week, and thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week. Good luck in CVC that starts tomorrow, and of course, Jotunheim is this week. Stay cool if you have warm weather. Stay warm if you have cold weather, and I will see you guys around the community and on the next live stream. Thanks for watching.